Welcome to the vibrant world of the brand.
All right. Oh my camera. All right. All right. We are live. We are live, family. All right. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We're gonna have an absolutely magnificent show tonight. I want to welcome back to the platform, my brother. We team Billy over here. I want to welcome back. We team Billy over here. I want to welcome back to the platform, my brother Billy Carson. Billy, what's going on, my brother?
Hey, it's all good, man. Glad to be back. Looking forward to this great discussion tonight, man. It's always an honor to be on your platform.
Yeah, I'm very glad to have this conversation with you about Mars. Because I know that you're not just following an algorithm. You have actually been talking about Mars for quite some time. You actually did workshops on what were you doing with the remote thing? What was that called with Mars?
I was doing workshops on Mars, we were viewing from the rover's mast cam. And we were actually, going through existing data that existed on the NASA servers and the Caltech servers. And I was taking people in real time and showing them Mars, looking around Mars, zooming in, zooming out, panning left and right, looking for anomalies. That was years ago.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Years ago. I've been on Mars for a long time. Actually, one of the first posts I put on Instagram back in 2012 was Mars anomalies.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, so that's why I said it's great to have this conversation with you, because I know it's going to come from a pure place in your heart. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely look forward to tonight's conversation. Before we start, my brother, I just had my daughter November 19th, Billy.
Congratulations,
man. I just had my daughter. So I've been like, oh man, I've been like super duper busy, involved, dealing with a newborn. And in the meantime, in between time, I probably took like a week and a half off of just being on YouTube and uploading videos and being active on Instagram and YouTube and stuff like that. Because I had to fulfill daddy duties and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that's big life.
As my head is down, I'm watching and observing what you're going through, and I'm seeing what's happening. And it was just like, wow, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And from one brother to the next, and I consider you, sometimes you meet people and it's like a business relationship. I consider you like a friend. You know what I'm saying? We've had many talks. I've been to your house, and we chop it up a lot about different things in life. And I've come across so many people, Billy, and I'm just saying this, I come across so many people in the community. I've interviewed hundreds upon hundreds of people. And from what I'm a great judge of character. The people that surround me, I've known. I have friends from the first grade. The lady I'm with, I've been with her for 19 years. It's gonna make 20 years in 2025. Wow. And so I'm a great judge of character. And just knowing you, I probably met you and started dialoguing with you in 2018, 2019. Just an absolute magnificent brother. And to see what happened, it was like, I was like, wow, man, I hope my brother's all right. I hope his mental is all right, getting out of this, and the crucifixion that they attempted on you, brother. So I just want
Black Jesus.
Black Jesus. Hey man, I don't know how many niggas you've been called in the last month, but I mean, Jesus Christ, man. I hope everything's all right, because when them Christians come after you, I mean, it's hard. But listen, saying that to say, I appreciate you when what you bought. I bought you on this channel, and you've taught so much about quantum physics, about our cosmic origin. I think us realizing that we have a cosmic origin is the most important piece in this realm, for us to know that we're not just the fleshly body. Us to know you've taught us our power, the God power. You gave us blueprint for God power. So I just want to thank you, my brother. I want you to keep your head up. I'm a real friend of yours, and
appreciate it.
I not to say that every move you made was perfect with everything going on in the past month, but
it definitely wasn't perfect.
You're coming from a good place. You're coming from a genuine place, and I know amazing people when I see them, brother. So I just want you to keep your head up and know that this place, Black Magic 363, this is home right here. We appreciate you and what you do, my brother. And I want to put that out there before we actually start the video, Billy.
Hey, man, much appreciated, man. Much love and appreciation. And a couple of my moves and my reaction to what happened, I could have done better. But, I people think I'm an alien, but I'm really a human being. And And I really did experience some anger emotions, not from the fake debate, but actually from the betrayal of some people that I thought were in my inner circle that had my back, and that kind of put me into this setup, especially when I was sick and I was very ill and, in a weakened state. And that was what really upset me more than anything. All the other stuff online, you know, I expected at some time. I look at LeBron James and I look at a lot of these other big stars. You know, LeBron James has broken pretty much every record in the history of the NBA, and yet he still has millions of people hating on him every single day, to the point where they go out of their way to send hate. And I realized that at some point, I'm not, you know, maybe not LeBron James athletically, but on the thought leader level, there's levels to everything. And I saw the popularity gaining and growing in leaps and bounds. And I knew that at some point I was going to get blindsided by some hate attack. And it was actually the perfect timing, because I took a lot of time to reflect on it, to grow, to realize where I made mistakes, where I could have done better for myself, decisions that I made that I wouldn't make again, ill-advised situation I put myself in, and also to inspect and reinspect my inner circle. And all of this happened at the perfect time. I mean, at the absolute perfect divine time, where some people would have been completely crushed by this and torn apart and ripped apart. I saw it as a great opportunity to take the L for an L for learn, not an L for loss. And I was able to, myself and my family were able to grow from this whole situation. And all of our numbers are doing phenomenal. We're doing great numbers. All of our following is going up consistently, and all of our website visits and everything else is doing great numbers. Our tickets for our events are selling out like crazy. So it didn't affect anything on the grand scheme of things. They didn't put Forbidden Knowledge out of business. But what they did was they just brought more people to us, and they gave me and my family an opportunity to recognize a few things that we needed to be aware of. Now I go everywhere with 2 bodyguards, 2 armed guards. I don't move around solo by myself anymore, and watch, you know, understand how to how this algorithm works, and what you can and can't say, and how to maneuver. But yeah, we out here, man. We back on the streets, man. We out here, we grinding. We do back to business as usual.
Indeed. I want to give a shout out to 19 Keys. 19 Keys is in the building.
19 Keys. Yeah, the brother reached out to me today too, man. Appreciate 19 Keys.
Yeah, shout out to 19 Keys. 19 Keys is in the building. And also shout out to Mr. G. Mr. G, if he says Team Billy Carson all day. This is this was Dr. Sabi's cameraman. And he has exclusive footage from Dr. Sabi, amazing footage from Dr. Sabi. And he actually, there's things I want to talk to you, like he's in touch with people, like we're talking about remote viewers. Like he has people in Honduras, and he told me this years ago. I just never told you. He told me years ago. There's this brother named, I don't want to say his name, Mr. G. You know his name, but the brother actually was like, yeah, Billy is an amazing person. If he only knew who he really was, and it was like he got like people that's tapped in to like really tapped in. You know what I'm saying? This is brothers from the brother don't even speak English. That's why I never had him on my channel. Yes, I don't want to say his name, but Mr. G, you know who I'm talking about, Mr. G. But shout out to Mr. G. But let's get this thing started. Billy, welcome home, my brother. We appreciate you, and let's start talking about Mars. All eyes is on Mars. What's interesting is that next year is a number 9, and if we ask King Simon about the number 9, he'll tell us all things about the science of the number 9. And hold up. And in astrology, 9, Billy, is associated with Mars. So all this talk about Mars is like, hey, perfect timing.
Yeah. Like, everything happens in divine time, man. Everything is right on point, you know. It really is. Like you said, the beautiful thing though is I have been talking about Mars for years. Some of the very first posts. I even have a group called the United Family of Anomaly Hunters on Facebook that we formed in 2012. And it's 15 of us that have been scouring all the NASA, Caltech, Washington.edu, European Space Agency, Indian Space Agency, Russian Space Agency, China Space Agency images, and calculating, downloading, and evaluating images for particular anomalies that might be in them and cataloging them. Some of them have made CNN, Fox News, NBC, major write-ups in Huffington Post and other mainstream magazines. So we've kind of really set a benchmark for finding anomalies, hunting anomalies, with over 1 million downloaded images and over 60,000 cataloged anomalies to date.
Indeed. So all right, Billy. So much talk about the CIA. CIA's big talk of the town these days on the internet, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and this talk of astral projection, remote viewing, Mars, and the information that they've gathered from these things. So Project Stargate, Project Stargate. So let me read a little something real quick before Project Stargate went down. Let me just read this. In 1976, Billy, a Russian bomber went down in the Congo, and the details of the crash were sent to CIA psychic researchers operating out of Patterson Air Base in Ohio. There, a psychic named Rosemary Smith drew maps of the Congo and pointed to a specific place where she claimed the plane was. They sent out a paramilitary unit that was dispatched to the location, and they actually found the plane, Billy, based on the work from that psychic researcher that I just named.
Yeah.
After this, Billy, they say the CIA was convinced that they were onto something, so the various psychic projects going on all around the country were consolidated, Billy, to Fort Meade in Maryland, and that became known as Project Stargate.
Absolute facts. And one of the men that ran Project Stargate was Major Ed Dames. And Major Ed Dames is a gentleman that used to have private classes for remote viewing, which when we did our remote viewing workshop years ago, Rich, I showed a picture of me and Ed Dames together in the classroom. He was actually my instructor in remote viewing. And these people were really gathering intel because, as we learned in class, the mind can travel outside of space and time. And so you can send your mind to the past, to the future. You can send it to other planets within the same time frame. The only thing you can't calculate in the future is the exact date. If somebody's telling you they're calculating exact dates and times, they're lying to you. What you can do is you can see what's on the horizon prior to the thing that you witnessed or that you remote viewed, but you can't really specifically name a date. You can only, so you can get markers in time. And as you see something happen prior to the next big event, you can recognize that as, oh, the next event is coming at some particular time in the near future, but nobody can lock down a date and time. But yeah, they had this, the CIA declassified document. The document is called Mars Exploration, May 22nd, 1984. That's the name of the actual document. So anybody can Google CIA document, Mars Exploration, May 22nd, 1984, and they can pull down that declassified CIA transcript and read about it. They talk about pyramid-like structures. They talk about pyramids, huge, large, massive pyramids in open areas. They talk about obelisks like the ones in ancient Kemet, now called Egypt, and some of the places that they've been taken out all over the world, like, the Vatican and so forth. They've stolen all the obelisks and put them all around the world. They talk about massive sandstorms, and they also talk about the terrain. They talk about the canyons, the cliffs, large flat plains. All of that's described in this session, in this declassified document.
Well, I go with the flow. So since you took it there with the obelisk and all of that, there was a specific, and I was going to go somewhere else, but I go with the flow. That's how I follow my heart. That's how I make all my moves in life. So you took it there. So let me go that direction. And a gentleman that talked about the obelisk, I believe was Joseph McMongle or Mongeagle. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah. It's Joseph Mongeagle.
Yeah, Joseph Mongeagle. So Billy, Joseph Mongeagle was a U.S. Army intelligence officer who served in Vietnam, and in 1970 he was injured in a helicopter crash accident and almost died. When he recovered, he realized he said he had psychic powers. So before we go, and we're going to concentrate on him for a little while because he's the one that talked about the obelisks and the tall people on Mars and all that stuff. So the first question I want to ask about this this gentleman, Joseph, say his name again. Joseph Mongeagle. Joseph McMongeagle is there a connection, Billy, from what you know, with trauma and psychic powers? Because he went through trauma, accident, all of a sudden he got psychic powers. A lot of people, if you talk to a lot of people who are tapped in, they've been through some shit in their childhood whether it was molestation, abuse, neglect. It could be an assortment of things, but they've been through some shit in their childhood trauma, and all of a sudden they're dope. Boom! All of a sudden they activated. So what's the deal with trauma and psychic powers, Billy?
I just watched a partial documentary the other day where there's a gentleman. I forget his name right now, but you could probably Google it and look it up. He had gotten into a car accident and had a head injury. Now, this guy was subpar IQ, subpar, probably in the 70s most of his life.
Wow.
After that car accident and that head injury, it activated a part of the brain that hardly anyone in the planet actually even uses. And when he came out of it, he was able to then see lines and geometry around people's bodies, auras around people's bodies. And everyone thought he was crazy. He was able to do incredible mathematical computations all in his head. And a quantum physicist got a hold of him and realized what he had, how special he was, and was able to really extract this information out of him and realize that this guy had become a savant. And so they started looking into this, acquired savant syndrome is what it's called. You acquire it. You're not born with it. Some people are born savants. Some people are born with this borderline autism, borderline savant. So they have the savant syndrome. They're functioning autistic people that have high levels in one particular area. Well, this guy had acquired super mathematic capabilities with geometry. He became a philomath. And so they looked into this and they started realizing that physical trauma and also psychological trauma rewires the brain. And when this rewiring happens, sometimes in some people, it activates dormant areas of the brain and gives them superpowers, whether it's a higher sensibility for psychic powers, whether it's like this guy, math. Some people, they gain art skills. Some people gain memory skills where they have a photographic memory. Some people, get all these incredible talents that just seem to have been dormantly laying there. But it proves that all that knowledge, all those skills and talents are all inside of every single human being, just waiting to be awakened. So yes, trauma, physical and both psychological, can activate parts of the brain that give you extrasensory powers, as well as, the ability to memorize a lot of incredible things and pick out calendar dates going back thousands of years off the top of your head. All this stuff is done through trauma and injuries.
Yeah, no, that's some amazing stuff, and it just makes you think about when we had hard upbringings. I'm like, did we choose that purposely in this reality so we could tap into these gifts? You know what I'm saying? Like imagine, you see what Michael Jackson went through with Joe Jackson, and look what happened to Michael Jackson. So then it makes me think, Billy, it's like, well, damn, we want to give our kids a good life, but giving them a good life, are they going to really be tapped in like we tapped in? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's just a weird thing. It's real weird, man.
It's crazy.
But listen, this dude here, Joseph McMonigle, he was involved in over 450 psychic missions. And his strangest mission, let me read this, Billy, once again. His strangest mission took place on May 22nd, 1984. Now, this is like an interesting story, family. So I want y'all to listen closely. He was given a set of geographical coordinates. It was in an envelope, family. This was his biggest mission. And they asked him to describe what he saw. He described pyramids, Billy. And he described a shadowy people dead and tall.
Yes.
He was given more coordinates, and he described seeing a large obelisk that reminds him of the Washington Monument. He's seen the pyramids that appear to be storm shelters. And in the pyramids, there was more, Billy. There was more, listen to this word, more of the shadowy people who seem to be hibernating. He said these are an ancient people dying and past their time or age. And after his visions faded, Billy, this is their top researcher. He done found hostages in the Middle East, all types of shit, Billy. This is one of the big boys. This is the Michael Jordan of remote viewing, Billy. This is the Michael Jordan of remote viewing. Keep that in mind, family. Context: Michael Jordan of remote viewing.
Yeah.
And after his vision faded, they opened up the envelope. He tore it open, and it read, "The planet Mars. approximately 1 million years BC.
Mhm.
Woo! This is their Jordan of remote viewing, and this is what they came up with a milli years ago BC. Billy. Now the first question I want to ask you is, because this is a primarily melanated YouTube channel with people who are looking for their true origins, people who have been lied to, and people who have been oppressed massively in this country. When we hear things like that, it's just a trick. It's like shadowy. That means black. We like, oh shit, he sees some niggas. So what I thought of, Billy, is what's the name? Norman Bergram.
Norman Bergram. He talked about the black aliens coming out of the UFO
like,
on the moon.
Lady said dark. He said no, black.
Black.
So we have different sources talking about a shadow is black. Mm-hmm. We got the Michael Jordan of remote viewing saying he sees some black people. Code word shadow. Then we got Norman Bergman. So Billy, I got to ask you, what's the deal with blacks and extraterrestrials? Because we thought our whole life we was left out of this whole story, this whole narrative. Billy, talk to me. You know what? Talk to me.
I'm glad we're having this conversation, because one of the biggest misconceptions in the black community, or one of the biggest things that is heavily oppressed and really, not to be talked about, is any type of alien activity, UFOs, interaction with aliens. All that stuff is like scoffed at. You're put down. You're made fun of. It's taboo in the black community, primarily because the majority of the black community is involved in some type of religion, and those religions put fear in your heart when it comes to anything outside of what you've been told. Now, the importance of this is, the people that you oppress the most and hide things from the most and reprogram the most in a negative or dark way to keep them from seeing something that's really there, is because those people are in the past were heavily involved in that thing. So in my personal opinion, just based off of my research, a lot of the people that are flying around in these UFOs, not these fake UAPs that are flying around, those are made by human beings on Earth, but the UFOs, the majority, not all of them, but I believe that the majority of them, there's black people flying these things, and that's what they don't want you to know. One of the biggest reasons why the U.S. government has suppressed and oppressed the information about UFOs and extraterrestrials and keep you thinking that they're little tiny green men all the time is because there's black people flying in these. And one of my biggest confirmations is, and you've seen the actual interview with Norman Bergman. Norman Bergman's resume will go from South Florida and Miami all the way across the United States to California. That's how big this guy's resume is in science, aerospace technologies, rocket scientists. I mean, you name it. This guy was was sitting there at the console when missions were launched into space, and he's the one who was the eyewitness account that when we had the situation with Apollo, he witnessed black people getting out of a UFO on the other side of the crater. And we have the audio of Neil Armstrong saying they've landed and they're watching us. That's in one of the documentaries that I'm in. Probably 2 or 3 documentaries I'm in. They've used that same soundbite. They've landed and they're watching us. Yeah. Norman Bergman then comes years later to back up that statement, showing that, yes, they were watching. Not only were they watching, they got out of the ship. But also, if you look at the ancient texts and tablets, you discover that a lot of these beings were different races, but primarily there were a lot of black people, black-skinned people with blonde hair and blue eyes. They had blue eyes, blonde hair, like the people of Melanesia. But they also had what? They had vimanas. They had the ability to fly. They had these flying machines, which are always talked about in all these texts. They had the flying machines, and they're also depicted with wings, meaning they had the capability of flight, and they would move around the planet from place to place. So they had some technology that we aren't aware of today. And also we know that in one particular case, in one of the ancient Sumerian tablets, Enlil tells his son, let's go, we need to go to the moon they wanted to survey the moon. So they go on a mission. Now, before they go on this mission, his son says, we need to put on our eagle's mask because the atmosphere is, I don't know, remember the exact statement he made, but he said the atmosphere to the effect of like, it's very harsh. So they put on their eagle's masks. So those Sumerian statues that have those eagles' faces, even though we know they're really men's underneath, those are masks. And those are masks that they wear when they go into harsh atmospheres. They talk about it once when they go to Mars, Mul, and they also talk about it when they go to the moon. So I believe that there are black people and evidence of black people all throughout our entire solar system. And one of the biggest reasons why it's being oppressed and suppressed, just one of, is because they don't want us to know that there's black people piloting a lot of these ships, period.
Indeed. Billy, I want to ask you about the, all right, because, you know, we could talk about the black thing, but we could also talk about the green thing. We could talk about the black thing. We could also talk about the green thing. And when we say black, you know, we could talk about black and, you know, you're kind of brown. I'm, you know, light brown, whatever you want to call it. Do you think, because I've heard people in this community, the alien community, say that we used to be green. That used to be our color, right? So do you think that, you know, when you look at it, I might have asked you this before, and do you think, you know, when you look at a tree and the tree is thriving, it's vibrant, it's full of life, it's green. Billy, you see this shit right here? It's green, it's thriving, it's vibrant. But then it starts to, I don't want y'all to know I smoke weed, but it starts to turn this color. It starts to turn a little color. Do you think that in antiquity, when we started to turn the color of me or the color of you, we knew that we was dying because we was no longer this color. So we knew we had to make changes. That's what happened. Like we was like, oh shit, we're not this color no more. We this color. So we know, did we know that we were dying when we started changing colors from green to brown?
That's an interesting concept that I never even really thought about, to be honest with you. Now we do know that there were green beings. Ra, not Amun Ra, but Ra was green. Ra. He's depicted as green, ancient Kemet. He's even older than Osiris. We're talking about a super ancient being that's possibly over 100,000 years ago. This guy actually existed. We also know about blue beings existing in India, right? So we have Krishna and these other Indian gods. They were all related. These are the Anuna or the Anunnaki people. So you had green, you had blue. Various different colors did exist, but when they made it with people, with humans, they gave birth to the Nephilim or the hybrids, and these hybridized people, according to the Sumerian tablets, the oldest version of people that came out were the black-faced people. That would be us. So the black-faced people were the first ones that came out, and we were the people that had power over the land, power over the animals. And we were taught the building techniques and construction techniques on how to build these structures. That we didn't come up with it fully on our own idea. My personal opinion, some people may have a different opinion, but my opinion is that the blueprint was handed down and we were taught and given. And there's many cylinder scrolls that depict humans being taught by some of these quote unquote gods. I don't call them real gods or lowercase g gods because I think they're just people with advanced knowledge. But some of these people were black also. But the information was handed down and we became a race of builders, creators, inventors, and everything else. But the fact that you're talking about this conversion or this alchemy of turning from one color to another, maybe it's through hybridization that we became black people. I'm not quite sure. That's a question that I couldn't really particularly answer. I never quite thought of it that way before. It's really interesting when you start thinking about what you're talking about. But I do know that according to the ancient Sumerian tablets, the black-faced people were the first people. And they talk about this war that was happening and it says that Enki was running to his father to ask him if he could stop the evil wind that had been unleashed from these weapons. And his father said, I can't stop the evil wind. And he said, all the black-faced people of the land are dying. And he said, their hair is falling out, their eyes are bleeding, and their fingernails are falling off. That sounds like radiation poisoning to me.
Shit. And
then he says, his father tells him, Anu tells him, get in your sky ship and forebode. That means get in your plane or whatever he got, whatever his technology is, get in there and get the hell out of here. So, and that's what he told him. So that's pretty interesting. It's just wild. But yeah, that was the first race. And that was one of the first major wars. And the evidence of that war is located at Mohenjo-Daro in the Indus Valley, where the bodies are still laying in the street. You can Google Mohenjo-Daro out of Pakistan. You can see the buildings turned to glass which means 3,000 plus degree temperature, and bodies still laying in the street holding hands. No evidence of any scavenging. Of course, they're bones now, but they have never been scavenged. No bite marks, no tooth marks on any of the bones. And if you take a Geiger counter and put the Geiger counter over the bodies, they're higher than background level radiation. And you can find this happening in different parts of the world, throughout Africa, through Pakistan, the Middle East, and all these other areas. There was some high level war that existed that happened in those times. And we're just not ready to, mainstream is just not ready to fully admit that they had nuclear capable powers back then.
Wow. Hey, Billy, do you think, because you were talking about the Nephilim and we're talking about the giants, do you think, like, when we see like the NBA, do you think they are direct representations of the Nephilim and the giants? When we see these Shaq, Shaquille O'Neal, Julius Erving, Michael Jordan, do you think that's what the Nephilim looked like in antiquity? We're looking at a direct representation of the Nephilim from antiquity in modern day times.
I think about it all the time. I mean, I remember I met Shaq a few months ago. I met Shaq. I had my son at the game and he came over to holler at us and everything else. And that was the third time I saw Shaq in person. And just to look at the man, I mean, I'm 6'4", and he made me look like I was a shorty. You know what I'm saying? I'm 6'4", 215 pounds. I look like a tiny midget next to this guy. My torso was like his shoulder and his arm. You know what I'm saying? Shit. And so that's just crazy to think about. Now, I always thought, man, this guy's got remnant Nephilim DNA in his body. These guys, a lot of these guys just got remnant Nephilim DNA that just pops up every so many generations. I really do believe it. And they're not even as big as the Nephilim were. I mean, they were bigger people than that. But this is like remnant, in my opinion, remnant Nephilim DNA, just DNA just going back to the ancient savants, the gods of old.
And you know what, Billy, I'm gonna tell you, because I've interviewed you plenty of times. We have dozens of great interviews. And I'm gonna tell you, when my daughter was born, I thought about you. Ask me why. Ask me why, Billy. Ask me why.
Why, man?
Because when she was born, she had like a 6 finger, and they had tie it. They had to tie it. They tied it with like a string so it could eventually fall off. And I said, Billy be saying the Anunnaki got 6 fingers. I gave birth to Anunnaki. What's going on? Because what's the deal with the 6 fingers? People like, yo, I was born with 6 fingers. My cousin, my nephew, whatever. We talked about the NBA. What's the deal with the 6 fingers and the Anunnaki and all of this other stuff, man?
It goes even back to the ancient indigenous natives of America. When they go up to you and they say, how? They used to raise their hand and show all 5 fingers. Yeah. You ever seen any TV shows, old Westerns, where they do that? How? When they do like this? The reason why they do that is they're showing the 5 fingers. Because if a man raises his hand and he has 6 fingers, they know that he's not, quote unquote, a human being, that he's one of these beings, these other beings. So and you can research this and check it out for yourself. So when they do that, they're showing the hand to show that they've got 5 fingers, not 6. And supposedly, according to the accounts of the Hopi tribe, Lakota tribe, many other, the Blackfoot native tribe of the Americas, as well as other civilizations, even around the world, you go to the Aboriginal elders, you go to ancient Kemet, which is now Egypt, and talk over there. There were these beings that were around that had 6 fingers and 6 toes. And so one of the markers were like, in Americas, it was like, show your hand to see what type of person you were.
Wow.
Yeah.
One question, a little off topic from the whole Mars conversation, but kind of related in the same way. I heard, because we're talking the drones in New Jersey. And I've heard there's so many theories about it, but you mentioned the word radiation, which made me think about what somebody said. And David Wilcock, David, you heard of him before. He actually said that the drones that we're seeing are classified government technology that they're using to track down missing radioactive material. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, he may be spot on with that. And I'm not a big follower of David Wilcock, but I've been in a lot of TV shows that he had been in the past. Yeah. And I had gotten recently, I was on a podcast and I'm in the #1 documentary on Amazon Prime right now.
Shout out to Billy. Yeah.
And the reason why I bring that up is because I'm #1. This is called Battle for Disclosure is the name of the documentary. We just passed Superman documentary for the #1 spot out of all millions of documentaries on Amazon.
Hey, man.
And the reason why I bring it up, though, is because we're in there talking about the fact that these are Black budget projects these UAPs and these drones that are running with no congressional oversight, that are, basically the theft of the American public's money off the sweat of our backs. They're taking these things and moving them into these private projects through private corporations and running these secret ops without any approval from anyone. Not even the president is read in on some of these missions. Not even the president is read in. Some senators and governors aren't read in. Nobody knows. So the governor, imagine you're the governor of New Jersey, right? And you're like, well, I don't even know what these things are flying over my airspace. It's embarrassing. But these are black budget projects. They are scanning and looking for something, whether it's nuclear, whether it's some other type of a thing, whether it could be biological. Nobody really truthfully knows the exact answer to that. If they tell you they know the exact answer, they're making it up. But they are looking. They're going in grid patterns. So they're scanning and looking for something in particular, and they're using advanced drone technology to do this, which is why it's mystifying everybody, including some government officials and local governments as well, because they weren't even told that this was going to happen over their airspace. It just happened. But those things have nothing to do with aliens, nothing to do with UFOs, extraterrestrials. They are all, produced by us, human beings, through private corporations. And they use private corporations now to do a lot of these black budget programs and projects, because if you have a project that is funded and ran by the government, we can put in a FOIA request, a Freedom of Information Act request, and we can get that information because we're taxpayers, and we can find out what the hell they've been working on. So what they said was, we're going to shuffle these projects through private corps like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, all these, big aerospace companies. And what will happen is those private corporations now win a bid. We give them the money. They then create these projects, and nobody can find out what's going on with the project. Nobody can know who made them, what they built. Did it ever take off? Has it ever been used? We'll never know, but they've been sent trillions of dollars, 15, 14, 20 trillion over the years, and we'll never see, some of these projects will never even see the light of day. People are just siphoning down money and chopping it up. Executives are taking home multi-million-dollar paychecks, and sometimes every now and then they'll release a project and they'll utilize it for, like we see here with these drones and stuff like that. So yeah, in some regards, he's right, whether it's looking for nuclear or whether they're looking for biological material or something else, or just testing them to see what they can and can't do and what the response of the world would be. It could be a psyop as well.
Wow. Billy, I want to talk to you real quick about, because I thought about, Mars, and people talk about this great war that happened in the cosmos. And I've told you before about dreams I've had about wars in the cosmos and stuff like that. I want to talk to you about the spiritual community and this idea of a golden age where everything is peaceful and full of love. And do you think that the most spiritual people, Billy, are the most naive people on the planet? Meaning they are not willing to invest in a military. Like if you ask somebody, what's the US dollar backed by? The US dollar ain't worth shit. Somebody said the US dollar is backed by the military. Them some bad motherfuckers, man. You don't know about it. They coming after your ass. It don't have to be backed by gold. It's backed by the US military. That's true. Do you think that the love and light crowd, the golden age, do you think that they are naive in the sense that if they did rise to power, it would be easy to defeat them because they have no strong military? And we're taught in quantum physics, we're taught about the law of attraction. We're taught about what you observe becomes reality, and the waves and particle. So we assume that if we don't observe something, we don't think about something, we're not going to turn that wave to a particle. So we may not even think about a military, because thinking about a military, Billy, you're automatically thinking about somebody harming you. So we won't think about a military. But what do you think about the idea of thriving in a golden age, and then all of a sudden some savages come and knock the shit out of your empire, take over your empire through savagery, violence, torture, rape, murder? We could talk about the Vatican, we could talk about the Jesuits, we could talk about all of that. But why is it that when we go this route of wave and particle. Don't turn the wave into particle. Don't concentrate on it, because your mind and your attention is going to, when we do that, it seems like those people eventually fall to the bad guys anyway, Billy. So talk to me about the golden age and it not defending itself properly with a warrior class, Billy.
Got you. Now that's a phenomenal question, and I'm glad you brought this one up, because it's something that we don't really pay a close attention to what you're talking about. People don't, it doesn't come into the top of mind, right? And it's so important to understand that, for example, ancient Kemet has been overthrown 7 times. 7 times. And so when people say, well, there were no white people in ancient Egypt. Oh, yeah, there were. There was Persians, there were Assyrians, there were various different groups of people. There were Europeans from Greece and everything else eventually that came. If you look at the Dogon tribe, which originally were the inhabitants of ancient Kemet, pre-dynastic era, they achieved the golden age. They had no police. They had no military. They focused on arts and crafts and farming and stars and everything else, right? And they've been holding ancient wisdom and knowledge and passing it on for generations, for thousands of years. And then some people came by and said, oh man, these people they're living in bliss, but they don't have any protection whatsoever. So they just walked right in and kicked them right on out. They ended up being pushed out into Mali, Africa, where they've been for thousands of years. And still to this day, they don't have a police force. They don't have a military. They don't have an army. They don't have a jail. They don't have police officers. They don't need it. They found a way to live in total peace and harmony. So when people tell me that nobody can live in peace and harmony, look at the Dogon tribe. They should be the blueprint for peace and harmony for the entire planet to go by. But now, what does that mean? The next group comes in. They then eventually achieve a golden age, the people that overthrew the Dogon tribe. So they go through the cycle now. So now they're in the golden age. And like you say, Rich, no military or weak military, no real policing, no way to protect or defend themselves, no warrior class, easily overthrown again. And then the cycle continued. The next group rose to a golden age, and this cycle just keeps continuing. And it's like, wait a minute, somebody's got to protect us. And, and it does happen. So you're right. We do need a warrior class or some level of protection. We have to learn our lessons from what happened in the past, so we stop going through this cycle, including even myself, right? I mean, I didn't have a certain level of psychological and understanding of protection recently, and I went through this whole debacle. Something I did when I was in a very sickened and weakened state. I should have realized I needed to have better decision making. And these are things that happen to people that we trust. I trust people. I trusted these people. You believe in people that are in the frequency of love and light. We want to live in this oasis of love and happiness and peace and joy and sharing and giving and service to others. And sometimes it causes us to not see when somebody has dark intentions for you. And we've been victims of losing golden ages for this exact same reason. So we need to understand, yes, we need to achieve a golden age, and that is on the horizon. But also, we need to learn how we're going to protect this golden age. Because one thing I learned, Brother Rich, I've read so many texts and books and stuff. I've never seen anywhere where it said you have to go through the cycle. It just says that the cycles happen.
Wow.
Can we get to a golden age and sustain a golden age? I think that's the ultimate mission we're trying to find out how to achieve.
That's the ultimate mission.
Yeah. Sustain a golden age. Can we sustain one? How many civilizations in the universe have sustained a golden age without collapsing? That might be the ultimate mission.
Shit, man. Wow. Hey, I want to ask this question. I know you got some slides you want to share with us. I mean, it's just an absolutely magnificent show tonight. And we going in tonight. We having a good time. That's the most important, family, to have fun with the information, because the information is meant to be fun, family. Yeah. Let me ask you this, Billy, before, then I want you to go into your slides that you got for the family. We're talking about the CIA. We're talking about they got, they're recruiting people, and people are, and they got all these headquarters, and they consolidated it into Project Stargate. And we see these movies, right? And whenever we see these movies, let's even Stranger Things, Minority Report, and they have these people with these abilities. Man, they got these motherfuckers in a room, Billy. They don't live regular lives. What I want to ask you is, and I'm asking this question because I'm like, well, damn, if the CIA is doing this, where my people at? I want somebody to tap in to Mars 1 million years ago, or this or that. I need us to tap into it way more than the CIA. I need us to be the best in the game at it. And I want to ask you about one thing we do in our regular lives is have relationships and we engage in sex. So I want to ask you, how does sex and relationships affect our psychic ability? Because one of the things it seems that the CIA, these agencies, the movie Stranger Things with the Minority Report, whatever you want to call them, one of the first things they do is isolate you. They isolate them from the rest of the world. Therefore, your energy is not tainted. You're isolated. So how can we? I don't want to be isolated, Billy, to be psychic, nigga. I don't want to. Goddamn, I want to have some fun. So how can I? I want to be the best in the world. I'm very intuitive, but how? But talk to me about them isolating people versus us not being isolated, engaging in sex, whatever. Is there a pro and a con? Is there one better than the other? Compare the two to me, my brother.
Well, you know, what they've discovered is that when you take a person and you isolate them, you now can get maximum potential out of the research. But when it's like Mike Tyson, when he's training for a match, a young Mike Tyson, imagine a young Mike Tyson, right?
He didn't have sex.
A super heavyweight. There's no sex in training. He's not having sex for 3-4 months. Right. Yes, it's just not going to happen. That's real training for boxing. Why? Because you know that the sacral chakra is going to absorb the energy and it's going to release the energy and it's going to make you weak. And it's also going to make your mind weak because you're going to be focusing on the sex and you're going to be distracted by sex because sometimes the more sex you have, the more sex you want. Right. So they understood that by isolating a person and getting them hyper-focused with that hemisync concept, they can get a person to pretty much achieve almost anything. You know, they took people and isolated them. They took 2 men. They isolated them. You can look up this research on this. One man was in a room looking at the screen of a video game, but he had no hands on a controller. He only had his hands tied. Okay, so he could see the game, but he didn't have the controller. The other man in the other room was blindfolded, but had the controller in his hand. And through this laboratory research, they were able to create a mind sync between these 2 individuals. It was done for the first time. I think it was only 2 years ago. This is recent science that just happened. Right. And they were able to get the person that can see the screen to remote control the hand of the man who couldn't see the screen in a different room, both in isolation. Okay. Now take those 2 individuals and get them entangled with sexual ideas and concepts and lust. All of a sudden, this mind link doesn't even happen. You know what I'm saying? So you had the precogs in the Minority Report. The precogs were isolated in that facility, and they were able to then download this psychic information about future crime, right, from that movie you were just talking about. So it's the same exact scenario. It's like isolation. They discovered the isolation, the meditation, the hemisync technique. It gives you maximum results. Now, we can still get results, but if we're living a normal life and, you know, we're having sex and things like that, and if a male is ejaculating, well, he's losing some of his life force. You know, he's losing some of that life force. So that then takes away from some of your power. If you have the ability to have sex without ejaculating, then now you can retain some of that power. You can actually alchemically convert that energy back into thought power. So there's many different techniques that can be done. But if just an average person living their life, practicing these spiritual techniques, practicing their natural born gifts that we're all given, and still living a normal life, can still achieve some level. But we found that through isolation, you can maximize that level in a much faster and more significant way.
Indeed. What slide did you want to show some slides, real quick, my brother? Yeah,
I got a couple slides to show you from Mars. These are some of the Mars anomalies that we had discovered. This first one here was on the website of JPL anomalies.washington.edu. So we're talking about a university in America. It's one of my very first anomalies that I ever discovered years ago. And you look at the top image, the top half of the image is not zoomed in and not edited or altered in any kind of way. But you look at the bottom half of the image, you can see three objects. And all I did was expand them. I did not edit them. I didn't change contrasting or anything else. I just brought them to the forefront so you can see them more clearly in a magnified way. You can clearly see that those three objects don't appear to be rocks. In my opinion, and in the opinion of many of the people in my group, they just don't appear to be rocks. The object in the background appears to be a pyramid on Mars, a very large pyramid. It's weathered, but it appears to be a pyramid. And you can see something that looks like tech, something that looks like a sphinx, and something that looks like technology. So we're not saying that that is exactly what it is, but what we are saying is we don't believe they're rocks, and what our mind's eye can only distinguish is what we're labeling it as. So it's pretty interesting that you can see this there. And anyone can pull this image down. As you can see, the image source is even in this image. It's one of my first discoveries in Mars anomaly hunting about, I don't know, now maybe 9 years ago, or whatever it was. Here's another object that's really important. Can you see that red arrow on the screen, Brother Rich? You might be muted. Well, there's a red arrow here. This red arrow is pointing at an object that looks like an ankh. Hopefully you guys can see that there. There is an object on the ground that looks like an Egyptian ankh laying up against this rock. And that's just one of many objects that we've seen that look like ankhs on Mars. We've actually cataloged dozens of them on Mars. And I mean, what in the world is an Egyptian ankh doing on Mars, right? And here's the famous face on Mars, right? Viking 1 orbiter released that in 1976, July 25th, 1976, the Viking orbiter flew over Mars, an area called Cydonia. Now, Cydonia actually means, in ancient tongue, it means Cairo. So Cairo and Cydonia, the same exact name. And ironically, they found other anomalies there in this same area. And there's a place on Earth that if you fly over called Deir Allah in Jordan, that has the same exact face. You can only see it from high altitude, about 20,000 feet up in an airplane. Can you actually make out the entire face at Deir Allah on Earth? But here's Cydonia on Mars. Now, the first thing you notice is that Cydonia, which is a massive area spanning hundreds of miles, is actually terraformed to look like a female lioness looking back. If you can just really take a hard look at this image, you'll recognize it's actually a female lioness. On the back of the line, you see 3 pyramids aligned with Orion's belt. 3 pyramids aligned with Orion's belt. Then to the left of in the body, you can see the Mars face. And then going towards the face of the lioness, you see the nose is actually a 5-sided pyramid called the D&M pyramid, well documented. And this entire place is crazy because it's an exact replica of a place on Earth in the UK called Avebury. So Avebury, UK, if you go on Google and download the Avebury, UK ordnance map and overlay it over this image, you'll find out that they actually manually built anomalies on Earth in Avebury, UK. They call them mounds. They moved millions of tons of earth to build mounds and also to build walkways that mimic this exact structure on the back of this lioness at Cydonia on Mars. There's a connection there from Earth to Mars. Here's the 5-sided pyramid. You can see the mathematics, the 19.5 degree angle. Okay, shout out to 19 Keys. You got a 5-sided pyramid. This doesn't happen by accident. Wind and erosion do not form 5-sided pyramid with geometry and mathematics. It just doesn't happen, okay? And yes, I saw somebody in the live chat say Strawberry Hill, real talent over TV. One of your followers, one of your subscribers there, he hit it right on the head. He knows exactly where I'm talking about in the Avebury, UK, which is an exact copy of this region on Cydonia. One of our top anomaly hunters is Martine Graney, and her work is amazing. She has a group on Facebook called Martian Genesis. If you want to join that group, it's one of our United Family of Anomaly Hunters groups. And in there, she finds amazing anomalies that will just blow you away. This object we catalog, it just doesn't look like a rock to us. This is one of my discoveries from quite some time ago, Sol 36. That image credit is for JPL Caltech. And that Gigapan link is the actual source link to the actual anomaly. It looks like almost like a vehicle sitting in the middle of the Martian desert. What that's doing there, nobody knows. Just crazy. This is a 4-mile wide face on Mars. It's called the Princess. Okay, it's called the Princess. It's again more terraforming, geoforming that I believe was going on in ancient times. Here's another amazing object. Look at those black arrows and look at the object. Now look at the surrounding terrain and you become your own judge. Does that object, that anomaly, does that look like the surrounding rock and terrain? It has geometry to it that doesn't match the surrounding terrain. And to me, it looks like it's made by intelligent design, whatever it is. We don't know what it is, but it looks like it's made by intelligent design. And so that's why we catalog this anomaly. Here's another crazy anomaly that you can find from the Mars Curiosity rover about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. A giant object sitting on the ground with these objects inside of it. And they're kind of looking at the mast cam of the Mars Curiosity rover. What are these things? Oh, who are they? I mean, nobody knows what this stuff is. This is just crazy. It's just crazy stuff. So we don't know what it is. All we can do is mark it. We can show it to you, but you can make your own decision on what you think or what you feel it is. Here's another amazing anomaly. One of the last images taken by Spirit rover before it was deactivated, or as they say, it broke down. Now, this object is not the only object in the raw image. If you get the raw image for this this anomaly, you'll see many objects trailing behind this motorized object. To me, I'm calling it a motorized object. If you can put your mind's eye into what we would have in the military on Earth, if you look at the shadow in the back, it looks like a gun turret. The object looks like some type of an advanced tank just strolling down the Martian soil, heading somewhere with other objects behind it that you can't see from this clipped image. But it's one of the most amazing anomalies that actually exist. And it's clear to see that it's not a rock. There's no 4K photos because we don't get 4K photos from the servers. I saw somebody asking, do we have any 4K photos? They transmit these photos across great distances, sometimes 80 million miles. So they compress them. So sometimes these are the best images that we can get. This is another object just laying out in the Martian desert, kind of like an R2D2 type anomaly. We don't know what it is. We just label it that because it's, you know, it's funny, but it doesn't look like a rock. We don't believe it's a rock. It's just something extremely strange. We're not there, so we can't tell you what it is, but we can tell you that from our understanding of what rocks in geology look like, it doesn't appear to be a rock. Mm-hmm. Here's another one. This also doesn't look like a rock. Another amazing discovery. And if you take a look at it, it's got geometry. It looks like a functioning technological device of some sort. What it does exactly, don't know. What's it doing there? We don't know. We do know that it's not part of any Mars mission from any government on Earth. It's cataloged as an anomaly, and it's pretty interesting because it definitely, to me, don't look like a rock. Got a couple more. Mars was called the god of war in ancient times, not just by the Greeks. They actually copied that from the ancient Sumerians. The ancient Sumerians, they had proclaimed that Mars was the god of war, and they had gone to war with the deity that ruled Mars called Nergal. So Nergal, the ruler of Mars, that deity, who was ready for battle and a heavy bloodshed. They talk about him being the reason why Mars went to war. Okay, it's in the Sumerian tablets. And the crazy part is the book that was written by a scientist named Brandenburg. He talks about the fact that they got the science data from the REMS unit and from the soil samples, and they found something called xenon in the actual Mars atmosphere and in the Martian soil. Now, not just any xenon, they found weapons-grade xenon. Now, weapons-grade xenon is a side effect of nuclear fallout. So, wow. Evidence that in ancient times, maybe millions of years ago, there was potentially a nuclear event on Mars. Now, whether it was a natural nuclear event or a real war, nobody can exactly say because we're not there and we weren't there. But we do have evidence, scientific evidence of xenon, weapons-grade xenon. Here's another Ankh. The top image is the raw image. You can see the Ankh laying on the stone. If you look at the bottom, you can see we just zoomed in. We didn't edit, alter, change anything. There's another Ankh just laying there in the Martian soil. And the image is right there. The image number is right there also in the clip. But yeah, another Ankh out of one of the 12 that we found laying around. And here's a statue. Now, this made it on TV. This actually made it to Ancient Aliens. So shout out to Martine Graney in her success finding this incredible anomaly. You can see the artistry and the design on the actual object itself. You can see that it's laying on its side or its back, and you can see at the bottom, towards the right side, some prongs or something sticking out as if it was a part of a mount. It used to be mounted potentially on something, and now it's obviously broken and laying on its side or its back. And this object is very ornate in design. You can clearly see the ornate design, and you can clearly see that it's not a rock, it's something else. And that made it to Ancient Aliens about 5 years ago. Here's I got a couple more. This is a 4-story tall carving on the side of Victoria Crater on Mars. What's that doing there? What is that doing there? You'll see a correlation between ancient Kemet and Mars on a consistent basis in a lot of these anomalies. A lot of them, you'll see the connection between ancient Kemet and Mars over and over and over again. And this object is massive on the side of Victoria Crater. One of my other discoveries, back when I was called Coach Billy Carson, I wasn't forbidden knowledge back then. That's how long ago this was. Sol 1112, JPL image, Gigapan by Neville Thompson. The Gigapan link is there. And this object I just found laying in an area on the Martian surface, looking a little damaged, but looking like something we might even call an airplane on Earth. Is it an airplane? I don't know. But I can tell you that it don't look like rocks to me. So we cataloged it, and this one actually made the news as well. And one of the most famous images on Mars are these two. This was analyzed by over 120 Mars anomaly hunters. All independently, they came up with the same exact image. They came with the same exact find from the same exact link. What is it? We don't know. It looks like two people just fell down and died right there, just like the same ones I told you about earlier in Mohenjo-Daro in the Indus Valley on Earth that were hit by some type of a weapon of some type that struck them down where they stood. And we don't know if that's what happened here, but all we can do is show you the image, and a person can make their own judgment on what they think it is. And I think coming to the last one here, maybe one of the second to last, this image here, eerily similar to what we see in Cambodia. You know, I went to Cambodia several times. This is crazy.
Damn.
You know?
Very similar.
Yeah. Damn. Very, very similar to what we see in Cambodia. Another crazy anomaly. We don't know what this is, Brother Rich. It's just looks like it's made by intelligent design, and it doesn't look like it's a rock. So you can see that the 90-degree angle on that, what looks like maybe a piece of concrete above it, and then that very strange object underneath it. We don't know what it is. We have no clue, no idea, no understanding, except that it doesn't appear to match the surrounding terrain. Here's another crazy anomaly that also made the news. This object was discovered by Martine Graney in 2016. It's a famous image. We don't know what it is. It just looks like something inside of an open, cut out, carved out log. Is this one of those things that the guy, there's one of those shadowy figures that he remote viewed and said there was in a stasis, or some type of
hibernation?
Hibernation, right? We don't know, but this is up there. And the last one, if you take a real good look at the bottom image, you can see the top image is the raw zoomed out. There's the bottom is zoomed in. It looks like a dilapidated structure on top of a hill. Doesn't look like a rock. It looks like a dilapidated structure. Mars is a victim of a global flood. Mainstream science acknowledged that there was a catastrophe on Mars that created a global flood, and this structure looks like it was also a victim potentially of that flood. So yeah, that's it, man. That's what we had. You can take it down.
So all right, hold on, let me take this down. Yeah. So I noticed, Billy, when you present this evidence, you mentioned ancient aliens, and I noticed, Billy, one of the biggest criticisms I hear about you on the internet is that you've been on ancient aliens, and I'm trying to figure out a way to ask you the question. And I thought about, if somebody is say if somebody is signed to Bad Boy Records, they automatically get associated with Diddy parties, and they're like, "Oh shit, you signed the Bad Boy." You was a part of them Diddy parties. It almost seems like because you was on Ancient Aliens, they associate you with a conspiracy, with a television conspiracy. Ancient Aliens, they consider it to be, bullshit, and a show that's meant to cover up what's really going on. So when you go on there, they think, hey, Billy's down with the bullshit because he's on Ancient Aliens, the same way somebody would think so-and-so signed the Bad Boy, so they are down with the Diddy parties. So talk to me about a person who would think automatically, because they see you on Ancient Aliens, Billy, that, hey, Billy's down with the bullshit because he's on Ancient Aliens. He's not going to tell us what's really going on with the aliens. He has to tell us what they tell him to say on Ancient Aliens when it comes to aliens. Billy, you're on mute. You're on mute, Billy. You're on mute. You're on mute, my brother. Yeah. Let him give him a time to. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We having a great time tonight, an amazing time tonight. Phil Valentine will be on tomorrow night, family. Make sure y'all come in tomorrow night. Billy, you did? I said, yeah, I can't hear you. You're on mute. Is it me? No, Billy, you're still on mute. And I can't unmute you. Yeah, you're on mute. I can't unmute you.
All right, I see it. There we go. Yeah.
There you go. Billy.
Okay, I'm back. Was the whole Mars thing on mute too, or no?
No. You good to go.
Okay.
The whole
all right, good. Okay. What I was saying was I love the question and I adore the question. So you have to understand something. Ancient Aliens, first of all, is a program that's been around for 20 years. Are they covering things up? From my personal experience being around those men, they're not covering anything up. They're only giving you what they actually know, what they've researched. They don't, as deep as they can possibly go is what they're giving you. Now, I saw an opportunity when I was approached to get on Ancient Aliens to bring a deeper level of knowledge, as I have done with all of these conferences and workshops. When I first got into talking and appearing in public places, there were no Black people appearing anywhere. Black people were just sticking to themselves. But I saw an opportunity where if there's 15,000 people showing up at the Conscious Life Expo in California, and I look at the poster of all the speakers and there's no Black speakers there, then we need to have a Black speaker there. So I contacted the Conscious Life Expo, I did, and said, hey, I need to be in this conference. I'm going to bring you a different crowd of people. I'm going to bring those people in to get some of this knowledge. I'm going to talk to your people, but we're going to bring some other people along with us. The first year, they ignored me. The second year, they ignored me. The third year, I went there in person again, and somebody said, okay, we'll give you a room. So they gave me a room for free. I spoke for free, and we had about, 200 people in the room, standing ovation. I took a copy of that video, and I gave it to another conference. And I took a copy of that other conference who had standing ovation and gave it to another conference. So I forced my way into the speaking tours by saying, hey, I need to be in there. Just like I show up on places where there have historically been no Black people, I show up and I knock on the door and say, hey, let me in. Now, when I got on Ancient Aliens, I had contacted several people in reference to being on the show over years. I even had my entertainment attorney at one time contact Ancient Aliens directly. And it took probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years before I actually got a chance to get on there. So it's not like it was just, oh man, just bring him on in here. But why did I want to get on there? I wanted to get on there so I could bring my version of knowledge, my version of account of what may have happened, and my own personal experience with my research to give a more in-depth view, and also to bring a black face to the show, a person of color to the show, and to maybe get other people to say, wow, if he can do it, then I can do it. If he could talk about this, then I could talk about this. Now, one thing Ancient Aliens has done over the years is they've created the, I guess you want to call it a scenario where people can begin to ask questions. That's one thing that show is great for. It gets people to talk, it gets people to ask questions, and it even gets people to do a lot of research. If you start researching the things that you're hearing in the show and stop relying on the show for all the knowledge, but actually go and dig deeper into the research and become a researcher, you then find and uncover all kind of amazing information and truths that aren't so hidden that you can't get to them. They just don't appear in the show because it's only a 40-minute show with commercials. So it's up to us as a people to dig deeper and to do the research and to look more. And if we don't have the thing about talking about aliens and ancient civilizations and ancient astronaut theory, you don't have to agree with everything that everyone says. A lot of this stuff is just based on opinions, based on research. So if your opinion is different than someone else's, there's no need to be angry at them. There's no need to be pissed off at them. There's no need to hate them. There's no need to attack them and try to bring them down and all this other crazy stuff. It only boils down to, well, this is what they talk about. Let me look deeper into it so I can discern my own understanding. And if you have a different opinion, then voice your opinion, build yourself an account, build yourself a platform, and gather and gain and build your own following around your own ideas and opinions. I think that people get caught up with, oh, I don't like what they're talking about, or I don't believe what they're talking about, or they're not giving us deeper information, so there's some kind of conspiracy going on. Right. Sometimes it's just based on what the budget can handle. So when you go on Ancient Aliens and all these shows, they're not paying you any money. All those years, those guys been going on there for 20 years, they don't make any money. You get a couple $100, so you get your flight and your hotel, and you get a meal. I mean, shit. Documentary work, Gaia TV, History Channel, Science Channel, travel. I've been on all these TV shows. You don't get rich going on all these shows. They don't pay any money. I'm just in recent shows with Lawrence Fishburne. History's Greatest Mysteries. I'm in like 3 or 4 episodes. You don't get paid for that. Okay, there's no money in that. Now, if you're going to do acting in a movie, a TV commercial, and all, you're in one of those things where you're actually doing a paid acting job. Then you're going to make some money, whatever your contract allows, whatever you negotiate with your agent. But these documentary shows, even the show that I'm in right now, Battle for Disclosure, there's no money. You don't get paid any money for that. You get paid a few $100s to show up, and that's about it. Your flight and your airfare. So the reason why I'm saying that, Rich, is because it's about the passion. So when people aren't making money off of this stuff, what is their agenda? There is no agenda. These people just don't have any deeper that they can go on the information, and they'll repeat a lot of the same stories over and over again because there's new generations of people coming up. But I do like that it creates questions, and people ask questions, but it's up to us to stop sitting back, because what people do, Rich, and I don't want to take too long on this, but people will see an Instagram clip of 1 minute, and then they'll get mad at you in the clip and comment negatively because you couldn't educate them on the full, broad-ranging topic in 60 seconds.
Ain't that something?
In 60 seconds. They want the whole thing.
Wow.
And so you can't get it in 1 minute. What the clips are designed to do, they're designed to spark your interest, and they're designed to have you take some notes, mental or physical notes, and for you to go then do your own research. That's what it's really all about. So it has nothing to do with the show being a conspiracy or hiding stuff from people. That's their level of knowledge. And I want to be on there so I can bring my level of knowledge to the show. And that's why I did it.
when you talk about doing research and bringing your level of knowledge, I'm hearing an echo. Is that on your end, Billy? The echo?
I don't hear anything.
Check. Let me see. I don't know why I'm hearing it all of a sudden. Check. Oh shit! Damn, I done. We gotta wait for Billy to log back in. I think I done. Boy. Hold on, family. Okay. Billy, you hear me?
Yeah.
That was my fault. I pressed the wrong button.
Okay.
So one term I always hear you, man. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We got about 3,000 people in the audience. One term I always hear you mention is when you're doing because you mentioned research and stuff like that. We're talking about ancient aliens. You talking about you doing your research is peer-reviewed science.
Mm-hmm.
Started out talking about weird stuff like astral projection with the CIA and remote viewing and things like that. Do you think, Billy, that your pursuit, you're more polished than I am. I'm more of you're more of the the educated brother. If we was compare each other, I'm more of the street brother. You're more of the educated brother. Say similar styles, but you're more of the educated school type. Mm-hmm. Do you think that your pursuit of peer-reviewed science prevents you from tapping in to the ancient sciences because the ancient sciences are not recognized and respected by peer-reviewed science? If you was to say, hey, Neil deGrasse Tyson, I astral projected, he'd say, Billy, get the fuck out of here. If you was to say, hey, I remote view, they say, Billy, get the fuck out of here. Show me the text, show me this. And you might not be able to technically show your peers things. So you may not lean toward the ancient sciences of telekinesis, astral projection, and things like that. So you think that your pursuit of peer-reviewed sciences, because I heard you mention a lot of times, prevents you from tapping in to the ancient sciences that will make you the ultimate Billy Carson?
I don't think so, because if you realize what I do, I combine both together. I combine the metaphysics with the peer-reviewed science. And the reason why I go back to the peer-reviewed science a lot is because sometimes you can get really woo-woo in this conscious community where you're just talking off the dome and you're just making stuff up and you're just getting too woo-woo. I've seen it happen a lot of time with a lot of people. And I like to have some of the woo-woo in there because, we've got to hypothesize what could be happening. But I also want to connect some of the things I can connect to real science, because the peer-reviewed science documents that anyone can just get online and look up. But now you got ChatGPT. You don't even have to go to my science. I just did a whole workshop for 5 hours showing all my places to get peer-reviewed science from the other day, about 2 weeks ago. It was a great workshop. But now with ChatGPT Pro, you can actually request information from it on peer-reviewed science and then ask it for the sources. It'll give you the sources along with the information, right? So the point I'm trying to make is, if you have some of the peer-reviewed science, and now they're getting deeper and deeper into the metaphysics now in peer-reviewed science, every year it gets more amazing. That's why I keep doing these Manifest Destiny workshops, because every year there's new science and more new science along the lines of this metaphysical realm that we're living in and how we can access it. And because we're doing those actual experiments, repeatable, duplicatable experiments, and having it peer-reviewed, it now brings more credibility when I tell somebody, that, you can create your own reality, that the power's within you, that whatever you focus on, you can become a magnet and draw it to, you can attract it. And there's other techniques and things that they also talk about within these peer-reviewed documents that can actually be utilized as exercises in the real world with real people. So I try to combine the two. I try to show that, yes, we're talking about things that the mainstream doesn't really talk about, but at the same time, behind the scenes in laboratories, there's scientists working on these projects and doing this and duplicating these outcomes of these experiments. Another thing I say I do all the time, if you go back, if people really been paying attention to me all these years, I will tell you something when I say this, it's a fact, and they can look it up. And then sometimes I'll say, this is my own hypothesis. I'm just telling you from my own research. I say those words all the time.
Right.
So
Okay.
I know when to make a hard statement, and I know when to make a actual a claim versus that's backed up by actual real science, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I do it. And so the peer-reviewed science for me just gives more credence to what I'm talking about, and it lets the person that's you're trying to teach them something, it lets them know, like, this is something that really does happen. This is something that already other people know about. So what he's telling me, it's not like it doesn't exist. It's been accomplished before. So if they can do it, then I feel like I can do it. And that's why I try to combine the two.
All right, Billy. So I got a couple of questions left. I got about 4 questions for you left, man. Absolutely brilliant, magnificent broadcast tonight. Thank you once again for coming on the show.
No problem.
You know, in our society, we notice a difference when all the wires. We notice when we're in an area where there's no wires around and we get the reception from the cosmos versus when we're in an area where there's wires everywhere, Wi-Fi, this, that, and we're like, oh my God, we're polluted with electronics everywhere, and we don't feel the same. Some people, you know, there's sicknesses start occurring, all types of shit start occurring.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to ask you, Billy, is that the Dogon, a lot of people talk about civilizations existing in the water. Now, let's say that, you know, there's a civilization in the water, Billy, deep in the water that we may not be aware of. You know what we're doing, Billy, with this internet shit? There's wires deep in the water. We think it's Elon Musk is trying to put it in space, but I think as of right now, there's wires all through the oceans, Billy.
True.
All through the oceans. Mark Zuckerberg, all of them got wires all from Africa to America. I mean, the majority of the internet that we use is because of wires in the water. What I want to ask you is the same way that the Wi-Fi and the wires we see in our water atmosphere, because they say it's a different version of water, affect us, is the wires that we got in the ocean affecting civilizations in the water that's in turn causing them to try to communicate with us like, y'all going too far with this shit?
It's quite possible. You know, these wires are obviously insulated, but even through insulation, there's leakage, right?
Yeah.
So if you take a cable and you run electricity from one end to the other, you don't get 100% out on the other end, usually, unless you have unless you have enough money to have a gold wire, all right, which is very expensive. But a gold cable would probably not exist unless it was a really super high-tech project, very expensive, multi-trillion-dollar budget. But standard, just in your own house, you take an electric wire, an extension cord, for example, you don't get 100% out what you put in, because you will lose some of that electricity to friction, natural friction, as it moves down the wire, even with the insulation on it. So if we're moving massive amounts of information and data and energy underneath the water with these cables, it could have an effect on sea life. It could have an effect on existing underwater civilizations if they are there. It can definitely have an effect on many, many things, because, you know, there could be something lost to friction. So you could have emanations of frequencies that are leaking out into the ocean itself. Not much, because this has to be a real compact, very secure line for it to work and for us to be able to communicate the way that it actually does. But there could be situations where, you know, there could be some leakage. And now I know that Christopher Columbus, you know, he talked about, in his captain's log, he talked about seeing a giant object come up out of the ocean. This is the 1400s. There's no light pollution. There's no electricity. There's no satellites in space. He sees this huge object come up out of the ocean and lights up the sky like daylight, and then takes off into space. And that's in his captain's log.
Damn.
So when he was meandering around the Atlantic Ocean, getting lost, trying to find India, and he tapped into some islands in the Caribbean. But he actually, now captains don't write stuff in their log for fun. You don't just, the captain's log is part of history, so it's a history book. Right. So you don't just wake up and, you know, I'm just going to write this UFO in my log just for fun. The queen will get a laugh out of it. No, you get your head cut off. So what does that mean? You only write in your log what's absolutely important to the mission. And so when he wrote that in his log, that tells us that he saw a UFO come up out of the ocean, lit up the sky when there were no lights, and flew into space. So I believe that there could be civilizations under the waters.
And I see people saying in the chat, shout out to Q Reeves. I see my brother Q Reeves in the chat. And that's in the next question. Actually, that was the question before this question. Was a lot of people say the entrance to outer space is through the ocean, as above, so below. What are your thoughts on us traveling to Mars, to Jupiter, to Venus, to Saturn, or whatever, through the waters, Billy? Not through, you see how you see Elon Musk shooting the space up, the spaceship up in the sky. What about, can we get there through the ocean instead of going up in the sky, Billy?
Well, we when I say we researchers, we believe that there's portals in the oceans. If you
Mhm.
look at the Bermuda Triangle, so I'm in about, I don't know, 5 different TV shows talking about the Bermuda Triangle. One of the most recent ones was on Travel Channel, America's Greatest Mysteries or something like that I was in. But the Bermuda Triangle is interesting because it might be a portal that can take you places. Now, why do we say this? So if you take the Earth, a model of the Earth, and go to where the Bermuda Triangle is located and go to the center of the Bermuda Triangle and draw a line straight through the center, you pop out at the Dragon's Triangle in Japan, where there's an underwater pyramid there. Okay. And they feel like there's something giving off exotic energy at the center of the Bermuda Triangle. And there's been scans done to show there's been the pyramid complexes down there. There's even the one off the coast of Cuba. So if it's still emitting some type of exotic energy, it could be an energetic portal to go from one side of the planet to the next. And could that maybe not just be the end? Could it also take you to other planets within the solar system, to other portals within the solar system? So it's just ironic that if you draw a line through the Earth from the Bermuda Triangle, you come out at the Dragon's Triangle, which has also have been disappearances in the past, and all kind of planes having problems with their instruments and everything else, just like the Bermuda Triangle. So there's a connection between those two places on Earth, and there could be a portal connecting the two, and it could even take you to other places.
Hey, Billy, I gotta ask you a question. I hear Elon Musk talk a lot about traveling to Mars. Do you this is you. This is not what you read. Do you personally desire to go to Mars, my brother?
I do. I
In
personally
his
desire to
lifetime.
go to Mars.
In his lifetime.
I personally desire to go to Mars.
Talk to me about it. Talk to me about it.
So Mars is an amazing place. I'm an explorer. I've been all around the world, as you know. I travel. I go into deserts. I go into ancient temples. I go into most inhospitable places to explore them. I'm a natural explorer by heart. I have explorations planned all the way through 2027. You know,
dope.
For me, Mars is another frontier to go explore. I'd love to go to Mars. I'd love to be a part of an exploratory team to go to Mars and explore there. The reason why, Elon Musk is not an option is because his mission is a one-way mission. They're going and not coming back. So I need to be a part of a program that's on a two-way mission, a mission that goes and has the capability of coming back. Now, this is interesting. I want you to think about this. Imagine being one of the richest men in the world. You're a multi-billionaire. Probably he's going to be a trillionaire once these robots hit the streets. He'll be a trillionaire. Tesla will be $1 trillion company. And he'll be a trillionaire. And he's got all these other billionaires headed to Mars on a one-way trip. Now, just use your basic logic, Brother Rich. Do you think that they're going to leave the creature comforts of Earth, their yachts, their amazing vacations, and everything else, all their lakefront homes and everything else, their mansions, to go live in a tin can and have to wear a tin suit to survive every single day until they die? Do you think that's what they're going up there to do? I don't believe that. I believe that they're going to an existing pre-built civilization, predominantly mostly underground, and that they are going to be coming out in front of the camera in their tin can suits, waving at the cameras or to people on Earth. And then they go back behind that mountain. They're going back into an oasis. That's my personal belief. But I would definitely love to go to Mars and explore a lot of these anomalies that we've cataloged and just see them with my own eyes, and to be able to research and investigate what exactly happened there.
Hey, Billy, you talk a lot about the Anunnaki. What group? We hear about the Anunnaki. We hear about the Draconians. We hear about the Greys. You just talked about a lioness on Mars. And when we think lioness, we think about the Lyrians or the Lyrians. What extraterrestrial group, Billy Carson, do you think has the biggest connection with Mars?
The biggest connection for Mars is a group that you can read about in the Epic of Atrahasis. In the Epic of Atrahasis, there's a group called the Igigi, I-G-I-G-I, Igigi. They are still Anuna or Anunnaki, same name.
Yeah.
And this group is working on Mars in this text. They're laying out canals, digging canals, building cities, and mining for resources on Mars. They get tired of doing the work there. So there's two civilizations that are running concurrent, one on Earth and one on Mars. And that's why I believe you can see a lot of these, the collaboration or the similarities between ancient Kemet and what we find on Mars, anomalies we find on Mars. They got so angry in the Epic of Atrahasis that they were doing all this work for so long with no help and no breaks. They began to feel like they were being enslaved. So they had a revolt. They came to Earth and they went to South Africa to a place called Adam's Calendar. And you can read it in the Epic of Atrahasis. They surround the caverns of Anu, Enlil, and Enki. Those were the three people ruling over Earth at the time. And they found the oldest known gold mines right there at Adam's Calendar in that same exact location. And then they almost went to war. And the thing that stopped them from going to war, according to the text, not according to me, was Enki came up with a suggestion to slay the blood of a god and add the essence of them to the existing being on the planet, which would have been our cousins, and create a worker race. And so that was agreed upon, and it was then decreed to be done. So, but that's the group that has the biggest affiliation or connection with Mars, the Igigi.
Hey, Billy, what? You know, we talked about, I was talking about the Michael Jordan of remote viewing early in the show. What's his name? I had it. I don't want to miss Joseph McMoneagle. And he was the CIA. He's the one that told the CIA about pyramids and obelisks and shadow people on Mars. What percentage? And then at the end of this remote viewing session, he opened up the envelope and it said, they didn't tell him what he was doing. At the end, it said the planet Mars, approximately 1 million years BC after the shit was done. What?
Yeah.
I mean, like, Billy, man, we talking about 1 million years ago, Billy. What percentage of the people you think was actually that's on the planet today?
Yeah.
What souls do you think was actually around during that time? Like, do you think a large percentage of us was there or a very small percentage, Billy? What do you think about that?
I think it was a large percentage. I think this solar system is full of incredible histories that we'll never fully tap into. I believe that there was a booming civilization on Mars. Mars was not a planet at that time. 1 million years ago, Mars was an orbiting habitable moon of Tiamat. According to the ancient tablets, Tiamat broke apart through a collision and became the asteroid belt. Right. And some of it ejected out and became part of the inner Oort cloud, far beyond the orbit of Pluto. And so the asteroid belt is actually a blown up planet. Okay. Now, when Mars used to orbit Tiamat, now this information comes from actual NASA information. They feel like, based on the weird elliptical orbit that Mars has taken around our sun, that it used to orbit another planet in our solar system. That's them saying that, not me. And then it was slung away and slung free and created its own orbit around the sun. And so one side of Mars is completely charred and the other side is smooth. Now, why would that be? Imagine a planet blowing up. Tiamat was supposedly 4 to 6 times larger than Earth. Imagine it blowing up, the debris hitting Mars on one side, charring it, tilting Mars on its axis by 45 degrees, which its axis is tilt of the equator. And then the other side would have a global flood washing over the land, creating a smooth surface. So it matches, the science matches with the hypothesis that Mars could have been an orbiting habitable moon of Tiamat itself. And one more thing I want to add to that. We dig into these mines on Earth and we go down, and every layer we go down is taking us back hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of years. They find pottery down there. They found a hammer at, I don't know, 300 million years, some crazy number. They find all this stuff deep, deep. And people go, how were there humans back then if we're only 200,000 years old? Now, check out this hypothesis. This is like, again, I separate hypothesis from peer-reviewed science or from anybody else's theories. Imagine that we were a part of, that Tiamat did exist.
Yeah.
Tiamat, according to the ancient text, when it broke apart, a huge chunk swung away and became the earth. It took with it water, land, and organic material needed for life, and then it recoalesced, and we recoalesced as planet Ki, which means earth.
Earth, yeah. Key, yeah.
Now, when you go into these mines and you discover these things that are millions of years old that shouldn't be there, they call them old parts, out of place objects, and so forth. Well, that means that what if those objects were when we were part of another civilization, part of another entire planet, millions and millions of years ago? We're finding remnants of civilizations from millions of years ago when we were part of Tiamat. That's my hypothesis. That's it.
Billy, that's brilliant. You're going to have me thinking about that one. That's brilliant. You're going to have me thinking about that one. Billy, last question before you get out of here. Why now? Why? I think they say the CIA released certain things on Christmas Day, but all the astral projection, parallel, it's like we're bombarded with this type of stuff that me and you have been studying and disseminating to the people for years. But all of a sudden in 2024, going into 2025, we are being bombarded with it. And they're saying the CIA is disseminating. The CIA knows this and they know that. Why now, Billy?
They're trying to take control of the narrative. Something is on the horizon. Something huge, something massive is coming on the horizon. Exactly what it is, we don't know. But there's something huge. Look, the Vatican made a statement, an official statement from the Vatican. Anyone can Google this and look it up. Coming from the Vatican, saying that they were prepared and ready to baptize the very first alien. Now, why would they make a statement like that? Now, after they made that statement, all of a sudden, the U.S. government starts coming out talking about UAPs. And they're trying to track these things and figure out what they are. We have craft not of this world, David Grush. We have the bodies not of this world, David Grush. I'm quoting government officials now. Right. And then all of a sudden after that, we have the CIA releasing this document. We also have the NSA releasing documents talking about communication with ET. That's in my Black Knight Satellite documentary. They talk about the codes used and how to connect and communicate with ET all the way at the Epsilon Boötis constellation, which is mega light years away. So why now? They're trying to take control of a narrative. They have an agenda. They want to control the narrative. They want to be in the forefront and ahead of it. And they want to be able to dominate it because the person who controls the flow of knowledge has the power over the masses.
Yes. Yes. Hey, man, I'm going to tell you, with that being said, man, I appreciate what you bring to the global community. I really appreciate what you bring to the global community in terms of ancient knowledge, taking us our minds outside of a box that it was in for so long, brother. So keep up the great work. Absolutely amazing interview tonight. I got to talk to you about a couple things. Something I got going on in February. I forgot to mention to you, but I'm gonna call you tomorrow. I got to call you tomorrow to talk to you about it. But tell the people what you got going on. Anything you got coming up soon so they could go out and support you, brother. You always got your incredible business in this realm. You came down here to be an incredible businessman. And I know that upsets a lot of people, especially as a black man. That makes a lot of people, man, like a confident black man. You like that Muhammad Ali, Floyd Mayweather type, and that bothers a lot of people. So in terms of businessman, I salute you. You're very inspirational to all the brothers and sisters, white people, everybody out there, just to be confident in what you do. Keep doing what you do, brother. And what do you have coming up that you may want the family to support or know about, Billy?
My fifth book is on pre-order right now. It's The Forbidden Tablets. My fifth book, all five books are bestsellers. The fifth book on pre-order already became a bestseller.
Wow.
The Forbidden Tablets is only available right now on forbiddenknowledge.com with the number 4. I just saw King Simon dropping the link to my link tree. It's in the link tree. We also have our Manifest Destiny workshop in person in Los Angeles, California, February the 2nd in person. Come do the meet and greet, red carpet. It's going to be an 8-hour event. We're going to be bringing modalities. We're going to ground everyone at their seats. So we have the grounding mats at the seats. So every person that comes in is going to get grounded to the earth while they're in the actual workshop. It'll be a fully interactive in-person workshop at the Marriott, the Los Angeles Airport Marriott on February the 2nd. The link tree, also you can get tickets there. It's almost sold out. So make sure you guys get linked if you want to be a part of that in February. It's going to really kick you off to a great year. And of course, then our tours. We have the Egypt tour for 2025. I think we have 8 spots left out of 100, so that tour is almost sold out. And we have our Forbidden Tour of Peru, which is coming up in June. And I think we have 15 spots left for the Forbidden Tour of Peru. It's going to be an amazing tour. These tours are really life-changing. We take people to go see things that they've never seen before and can't see on a regular tour trip. And of course, everything else we have going on at Forbidden Knowledge. Make sure you guys don't miss the 3rd annual Forbidden Conscious Awards coming up in August. I believe that's August 2nd and 3rd. On August 2nd, we have a tech call. We have all this biohacking technology to get people on the right frequency, book signing and conference. And then the next day is the 3rd annual Forbidden Conscious Awards, giving out amazing awards to amazing people that deserve it for the work they've done in the conscious community. So everything is great, man. Business is booming. The numbers are up. Subscribers are up. Followers are up. Instagram numbers are up. Twitter numbers are up. All of our stuff is selling out like crazy. Books are selling like crazy. Our e-commerce department is going crazy. All of our gear. This is all this jacket, this shirt. This is all Forbidden Knowledge clothing. I got my own watch line. Everything is blowing up, and we're just doing great, man. So I appreciate you for giving me the opportunity to come on and spread some love and knowledge. And one thing I want to leave people with: when people get mad and pocket watch and try to figure out why come he got all this money and why come he in business and why come he selling stuff, the main object of the conscious community is to disconnect from the Fortune 500 corporations and stop giving them all of our money, because those are the ones that are poisoning the oceans, that are dropping toxic waste in your communities, that are poisoning your bodies because you're putting on clothing and things that are already toxic and poison, but made with poison chemicals, that are also robbing people by forced slave labor in countries like Congo and China and other places. People are working for 50 cents an hour and all kind of crazy rates. So we're supposed to be able to become an anarchistic society and create our own businesses and become our own individual companies, so that we can collaborate and work with each other, so that we can get away from corporate America and we can support one another and we can build our own community for sales and marketing and product lines and everything else, things that are healthy, things that are prosperous, things that are going to help the community versus tear down the community. And so people got in their mind, they're on the tit of sucking the tit of Fortune 500 corporations. And so the first time that a person steps out of that and creates his own or her own complete community, because everything that I have is my own. Everything is mine. The only thing I don't have that's not mine is the house that's built and the cars I drive. And eventually I'll have those too. Music is mine. My clothing is mine. Everything is mine, because I want to be able to blame myself and be angry at myself if this product doesn't work out. I can't blame a Fortune 500 corporation. I can't blame Elon Musk or somebody else for making cars that blow up in your garage when they catch on fire. I got to blame myself. I want to be in control of my own destiny. So for people out there that all they do is pocket watch and hate, you got to recognize you're not really conscious. You're in the unconscious community. You haven't fully participated in getting out of the system and becoming self-sufficient and self-reliant. And until you do that, you'll remain unconscious.
Hey, powerful. And I'm gonna say this before I end the show. As I told everybody, I'm behind the scenes a lot, and I've interviewed so many people, and I've seen so many things, and I've seen so many people. I've seen how people think behind the scenes, not just how they think on camera. And I've seen so many times when things don't go away, they want it to go. They immediately blame some entity, something, somebody, governmental agency, and they're like, "Oh, so and so's after me. So and so's after me. This is why this happened." And they just like put the blame on something. And I've noticed that coming up, and I draw power from certain people with how they maneuver. One thing I noticed about, and I know two individuals. I noticed about, when I was young in my 20s, about there's this brother named Sarnetta. Very controversial. He's into a lot of bullshit right now, but he is a powerful figure, and he was very influential in the role of the Black conscious community in the early 2000s, and I observed him and how he maneuvered, and I appreciate his power. Another person I observed that I really appreciated was Billy Carson. I remember I invited him out to New York for the very first time. And this may seem insignificant to a lot of people, but it's significant to a brother who's young and who's learning how to maneuver and do business and believe in himself. And everybody I know, when something goes wrong, they just blame something. They blame somebody. And I remember Billy's presentation. He had a PowerPoint presentation. It wasn't coming up on the screen. And the thing Billy said to me, he just kept saying, "Oh, it's going to work. Oh, it's going to work." And it may not seem like nothing to nobody, but when you're there experiencing it in real time, and you, it's like I don't hear the confidence in somebody. I feel it. Of sisters, imagine if, or brothers, imagine if you're around somebody and they're like, "No, this shit gonna happen," and it didn't happen. You're like, "Oh, this mother effer is different." And I just remember Billy. There was never a sense of fear or a sense of doubt in the brother's mind. And I've heard it so many times from so many people about, and like I said, I bring up Sarnetta because no matter how much people don't like him, he was an extremely strong individual, extremely strong. And I learned from him. And with Billy, it was the same way. He's extremely strong, and his willpower and his ability to manifest is unlike, I would say, 90-something% of the people that I met in the so-called conscious community. So when people wonder why he's able to manifest, people don't think like him. It's easy to be positive when nothing's happening, but under pressure, let me tell y'all, under pressure, it's different. When you're able to think a certain way under pressure, it's a different ball game. Billy thinks a certain way under pressure that the average person will fall, will crumble, will run back to Jesus or run back to whatever, or do this or just cry. Billy's able to survive under pressure. And I realized that in St. Francis College, and this might have been 2020, 2021. It might have been 2021 or something like that. And I never forgot that. In my mind, I always said, damn, this dude is different. This is a powerful dude right here. He really believes this shit. Like, he's not just talking when the pressure, that pressure is something. So, Billy, I realized that back then. And brother, I know you built for this shit, man. So keep doing what you're doing, man. Stand on 10 toes. I love your confidence. I don't think you're arrogant. I love when you're confident in the way you speak, and it inspires young black brothers like me to be as great as I can be. So keep doing what you're doing, my brother. And I look forward to collaborating you more in the future. You hear me?
Hey, thank you, man. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for all your great, incredible fans and subscribers. And I'll be back again. Listen, we grind. It's back to business.
Yep. With that being said, family, Black Magic 363 Forbidden Knowledge, we selling out. Peace.
Peace.
All right.